You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, as always, we put Ghana first. I'm Samson, Lardy, Anyenini. And here is my take. The OSP is special. It is upon the fight against corruption that we may forge ourselves a decent existence. That is Kisie Jabing, the special prosecutor's philosophy. The corruption fight is a collective one for our individual and collective good as a people and a nation. In Article 25(8) of the Constitution, quotes, the state shall take steps to eradicate corrupt practices and the abuse of power, end quote. It seemed a lost cause to an extent. A country that needs $3 billion from the IMF to save its economy from collapse is unable to account for same amount each year due to corruption. The Auditor General provided evidence of lost or stolen money 2016 to 2020, which is more than twice the IMF bailout. That's why we decided we needed an arrangement, special and different from those that have failed us. If there is nothing special or different about the OSP, then it is a needless addition to start with. It is, in fact, what it will be a needless extra burden on the taxpayer and a needless addition to the bureaucracy to start with. The Office of Special Prosecutor in July 2022 was stopped from freezing assets of popular NPP guru Sir John, essentially because there was neither a pending charge against him nor a warrant for his arrest before his death. The OSP is in the courts of appeal fighting this. It insists that, like Kwejo Owusu-Efriye said, John, whose will contained property that belonged to the state, money suspected to be stolen from the state ought not be lost because a governor of the central bank stole it but was caught after his death, i.e., he was not caught before his death. The OSP in June was stopped from arresting and investigating Charles Cromwell Nanabenyin Bisu, at least for 10 days. Well, the suspect, who secured this order on the blind side of the OSP, soon surrendered. The OSP had declared him a wanted man. I look to reading the basis of that decision by the court. But imagine a murder suspect or someone pursued over terrorism by an investigative authority running to the court for cover. How is justice to be done if such suspect absconds under such judicial cover, however limited? The OSP last week was stopped from seizing suspicious money found in former Minister Cecilia Dampare's home and freezing her bank accounts. This was not only because the OSP was allegedly 7 days and in the other situation 14 days late to court, but for other reasons, especially that the OSP had not done investigations but was playing to public sentiment. It may have been 7 days late for confirmation of the seizure, but it clearly was not 14 days late for confirmation of the freezing order. I ask, how can the 7 days ultimatum for confirmation of seizure mean it should come to court each time it discovers a single suspicious item within a brief period of commencing investigations? It means even if, as in this case, it took 2 weeks searching 3 separate houses of the suspect. Is that what it means? Section 38 of the OSP law empowers the SP to direct the freezing of property if he deems it necessary to facilitate investigations. And he must, within 14 days, get a court order to confirm this administrative freezing. The person suspected of corruption or corruption-related offense may be giving some of his money to cater for reasonable living expenses and those of his dependents and to run his business. But he or she will get everything back if the OSP does not prefer a specific charge against him within 60 days in case of a confirmed seizure and within 12 months over a freezing order. How? And I ask, it clearly appears that the person suspected of corruption in this case has their human rights clearly protected. One thing is clear: these judicial confirmations are to aid or facilitate investigations. This means the OSP at this stage may not know and does not have to know if the seized or frozen money or asset is actually tainted by corruption. It must only have a reasonable suspicion that it is and not be required to prove anything ahead of its investigation. Section 41A and F tells a court that it is a clear case of putting the cart before the horse to make such a demand of the OSP at the time he has commenced investigation to prove or show evidence of the investigation or why a particular account or asset is tainted. These are what make the office of the special prosecutor special. These are what make it special and different from the others. While the IOCO and their law makes these applications ex parte with elaborate requirement for seizure and freezing for dealing with economic crimes, the OSP by law makes these applications on notice to persons suspected of corruption, which often may be more difficult to prove. If confirmation of seizure and freezing applications by IOCO and the FIC, the Financial Intelligence Center of the Bank of Ghana, are almost always granted by bench rulings, that is on the spot, while all such applications by the OSP so far have been decided days after the applications are argued, with many pages of a ruling. What is special about the OSP? That's my question. It should not be difficult to appreciate the special arrangement for the OSP. A corruption investigation or prosecution is pointless if suspects have the opportunity to conceal, destroy, or dissipate evidence of the plunder. The OSP must be what the law makes it: special. In Section 2 of Act 959, it is mandated not only to investigate and prosecute, recover proceeds of corruption, but also to do the onerous job of preventing corruption. How can it do that? And that is my take. Thanks for your indulgence. I'll be right back to introduce my guest, and we get into the serious matters for discussion today. You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. Go to our various social media pages and begin to tweet at us, WhatsApp, Facebook. Send us your reactions to the issues that we are raising this morning on the show. Now, let me introduce my guest to do this discussion. Joining us right here in the studio is the Honorable Inusa A.B. Foseini. He's lawyer, MP, former MP, Tamale Central, and former Minister Roads and Highways. Thank you so very much for making time to join us, sir.
Thank you, Samson.
Right.
Thank you. Your shirt is nice.
I just looked at your
This
shirt.
is my school. The school I attended, Nalerugo Secondary School.
Nalerugo?
Yes, that's where I attended.
All right.
Yes.
Theodore Albright. He's lawyer, council member, Center for Social Justice, and head of governance, legal and constitutional affairs pillar of that CSO. Thanks for joining us, Theodore Albright. Also joining us is Haruna Mohammed. He's Deputy General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party. Later, we will have Alexander Kwamina Afenyoma King and Dr. Theo Echampong joining us for this discussion. So let's begin by way of some preliminary matters. I suppose that you have seen now that there are a number of suits. There is a suit by 5 different political parties, including the NDC, and they are in the Supreme Court and have a straightforward request from the court, but there are some issues with that. We'll let you know as well. The National Democratic Congress, the Convention People's Party, the All People's Congress, the Liberal Party of Ghana, and the Great Consolidated People's Party are in the Supreme Court. Then later yesterday, we began to see other suits also elsewhere. There is one by Agbenoto Mercy against the Electoral Commission and the Attorney General. That one is not in the Supreme Court, it's in the High Court. Then there's another one by one Ayeta. That is Ayeta Precious against the Electoral Commission and Attorney General. As I understand, these suits are being issued or filed across the country by individuals who say their rights will be affected if the Electoral Commission is not stopped from restricting the limited registration exercise to commence on Tuesday to the less than 300 district centers. That's 268 district centers. They are insisting that this must include the electoral areas. That's 6,272 electoral areas. The EC has brought this upon itself?
Yes. Samson, first of all, let me say good morning to you. A long time, 2 weeks ago I was here, you were absent. And to our co-panelists for this morning's important discussions. Samson, just a few weeks ago I was listening to the BBC, and one of the charges against Trump was violation of rights. The people of America have a right to determine who leads them. And so when you take steps to frustrate the enjoyment of that right, you've committed a crime, and that's the violation of rights. Now, so our Constitution is modeled along the lines, in some respects, on the American Constitution. In a democracy, and that's the legal framework, if you want, the governance framework that we have put in place to regulate our affairs as a country and determine the leadership of a country. In any democracy, and especially in a multi-party democracy, the right to vote is so fundamental that every facility must be made available to prospective registrants to register to get their names captured on the register. It's so important. It's like that is your passport to determining who leads you. And mind you, in a democracy, we say that the sovereignty resides with the people. It's captured in Article 1 of the Constitution. No one has the right to foist any person on us. That is why we condemn coup d'etats. Because the leadership of coup d'etats do not spring from the sovereign will of the people. So look at how Article 42 is formulated. It starts with a mandatory injunction. Every Ghanaian, every citizen of Ghana, then it starts setting the criteria
18 years
of 18 years and above.
Sound mind.
And of sound mind is entitled to be registered and to partake in public elections and referenda. So just look at how so it's a command. It's a reaffirmation of that constitutional right of a Ghanaian of 18 years and of sound mind to be registered. I've said that, and you know, in administrative law, they have always said that you don't use administrative procedures to frustrate the enjoyment of a constitutional right. Administrative procedures are supposed to give effect, to facilitate the enjoyment of that right, but not to frustrate the enjoyment of that right. In the history, let's go back to history as well. So the Electoral Commission is a creature of the Constitution. The Constitution came into being in 1992. And since 1992, practices have evolved, where limited registration is done a certain way. Again, as lawyers and as reasonable, rational human beings, because practices were done that way, we reasonably expect that they will be continued. Not so. We reasonably expect that they will continue. So there must be reasons why there will be a departure from those steps and practices developed by the very electoral management body. Thirdly, voting in a public election or referendum is a civic responsibility. But in other jurisdictions, it's actually quite mandatory. If you don't vote, they punish you.
Yes.
But in our jurisdiction, it's a civic responsibility. And that civic responsibility must be taken seriously. Because if you don't go to vote, somebody will go to vote. And that person's views will be manifested in the outcome of the elections. And that person will determine who rules you. Now, because it's a civic responsibility, and when you go and vote, you are not entitled to any remuneration, we must be mindful of cost when fixing centers for the purposes of voting. We must be very mindful. So Ghana's electoral regime is divided into polling stations. A number of polling stations which elect an assemblyman is called an electoral area. The electoral areas, a number of electoral areas come together to form a constituency.
Right.
These are the basic structures. In any polling station, the number of registered voters should not exceed 1,000. Why is that so? One, for convenience, so that you can go and vote, and vote early and go back to whatever you are doing. Two, because it's 1,000, the possibility of you knowing those who will be on the register is higher. So it goes to the integrity of the elections. Now, when you say registration should be at the polling stations, you are empowering the grassroots at the polling stations to challenge anybody who is not a resident in that polling station from registering. Who is not resident in that polling station from registering. So you enhance the integrity and reputation of the elections. Now, if you are going to do limited registration and you think that deploying your officers all over the country at polling station level, which is about 23,000 polling stations, will be an expense. What prevents you from following your time-tested tradition of using electoral areas? What prevents you? And the electoral area, for the purposes of our listeners, is the number of polling stations within an area that elect an assemblyman. That's an electoral area.
Right.
The number of polling stations. So if you want the assembly area, assemblyman's area. So if you limit it to that, there might be four. For instance, my area in Tishigu, there are 3 polling stations plus 1 temporary polling station at the same place. That makes 4 that elected assemblyman. And it is a small area, except that the population is quite...
All right. So we are supposed to be really brief about this one, even though it's a very important matter such as that. But if you can tell me briefly, why do you think that the EC so far appears to call the bluff of all those who are pleading, civil society organizations, all the parties that have come together and say, this does not work, this is wrong? Why do you think the EC is calling everybody's bluff?
Impunity.
They must have good reason.
No, they have no good reason. They have no good reason. And I have had opportunity to tell them that when I was in Parliament, that they have no good reason. You see, the EC itself, probably it is not understanding its role. We know the Constitution says in the performance of their duty, they are not, except in accordance with the Constitution and any other law, they are not subject to the control and direction of anybody. But the EC is an abater. It's supposed to be an impartial abater. So it must win the confidence of the people.
It is certain that you people will mobilize your supporters from, you say some have to come from as far as 8 kilometers and so on. Is it 80 kilometers? Yes. Between 40 and 80 kilometers, yes. Or 50 and 80 kilometers, yes. To a particular center.
Yes.
Meaning some of them will spend the whole day traveling, and they may even need to get accommodation at the place where they are supposed to register, and they may go through frustrations, and all of that is cost. But you are interested in the elections, so why don't you take that cost and get your people to go to the center and register?
The elections, the political parties' interest in elections is coterminous to the interest of all citizens of Ghana. Because that is the way, the forum, the platform that we have elected to elect our leaders. So everybody must be interested in the process. If it were just political parties, some political parties will actually cease to exist. Because if they cannot raise resources to be able to move their people, they will cease to exist. In fact, and you are right, you know Pandai. Part of the Pandai constituency is around Salaga. And so you are asking the people to come to Pandai district office for the purposes of registration. They have to travel by boat across the river to Pandai to be able to do it. It might take them the whole day. And so that's why we are saying, in addition to the district offices, the Electoral Commission should endeavor to extend the registration to the electoral areas. That will guarantee the integrity of the system and show accessibility. And talking about accessibility, Regulation 2 of CI 191 as amended says that the primary consideration in giving taking into consideration when the Electoral Commission is registering voters is how close the proximity of the area to the polling station, because you don't want the voters to not to know where they will vote eventually. Okay. And accessibility, is it accessible?
All right. Actually, one of those who is suing at the High Court says that, he says, I reside at Vli, Toji, in the Volta region of the Republic of Ghana. That is about 34 kilometers from the district office of the Electoral Commission in Hohoi, using mountainous footpaths and over 100 kilometers to use the Leklebi Kalime, and involves going through Republic of Togo Road. I cannot afford the cost of moving from my residence, at Vli to the First Respondents Office, that's the Electoral Commission's district office at Hohoi, to take part in the limited voter registration. The other one also has a similar complaint. So let me get your other friends who are joining us this morning on this issue. Haruna, are you with us?
I'm with you, Samson.
Great. So what do you say? I heard your Director of Elections suggest earlier that it didn't seem convenient, that something should be done about this. Where do you stand?
First of all, I say good morning to all your cherished listeners out there, and you, yourself, and other panelists on the side of the phone. Yes, the Director of Elections spoke, and then he did so on the stance of the party. Considering the nature and what the Electoral Commission seeks to do, we were part of the meeting, and the New Patriotic Party, as a party, look at the position that is taken by the Electoral Commission. The stance of us is that it is very important for us to look at how these people will be registered. It will be good for other centers to be involved, as they are saying. However, is it that we need to engage and dialogue with the Electoral Commission, or we have to fight with them? There are so many ways to get this done, and we think that suing the Electoral Commission is not one of the options for us. But we believe that dialogue can resolve some of these matters.
Dialogue, but you are in a situation where the process is going to start next week, Tuesday. Don't you think they have given the EC sufficient time? We have heard from various stakeholders, chiefs, and very important people, significant persons, all calling on the Electoral Commission to reconsider its decision. We understand that since 2012, when we went biometric, it's been the electoral areas that have been used. And the electoral areas, you are talking in excess of 6,000 centers. And you have also had a period where the EC should have done some of these things. It hasn't done it for a period. So to limit it to 260-something centers instead of the 6,000 plus must have good, explanation. There must be good justification.
Samson, I disagree that it has always been at the electoral areas and also at the offices. There were instances where this registration was done at the office alone. This is limited registration. This is not a widespread registration. The Electoral Commission has done so before, and we can only make an appeal and suggest to the Electoral Commission, based on their mandate, to vary them. But to say that it has always been so, I disagree. There were instances that it only happened at the Electoral Commission's office.
When was this?
I only monitored that exercise.
When was this?
I reversed my mind to 2012. There were limited registrations, and the Electoral Commission took the same stance to do so at the district offices of the Electoral Commission. I can remember at that point in time, I, myself, and then Chairman Samba, we had some point in time to go to the Electoral Commission in Zabzuku district office, and a lot of things have happened. And I myself, in that particular point in time, I had to do some monitoring. I can't vividly remember the date, but I'm refreshing my mind back from 2012 downwards. And I that some
at that time, Haruna, how many were the EC estimating to register? This time, the EC is estimating to register about 1.5 million new, voters. But even that figure, some contest that it will be far more than that. In all, before the December elections, the EC is expected to register in excess of some 3 million voters, so to speak. So at that time, I understand that was just a few thousands that were to be registered, right?
Yeah, I can't remember the figure. But whatever be the case, the correction is made that it is not that it has always been at the electoral areas,
okay,
or only done in the polling stations. But there were instances that the registration was done at the Electoral Commission office.
Okay.
We in the NPP believe that the numbers that you are mentioning need to be given the right by the constitution of our party to be registered. The constitution of Ghana to be registered as registered voters. Whichever way the Electoral Commission thinks that they will be able to do it, and whichever way that we also think that we can contribute to make sure that this is done, we need to use some appropriate measures. And using legal means is one of the aspects. But we believe that continue to do dialogue is one of the key points that can achieve a bigger result than fighting.
Okay. It will appear that the suits are sort of a last resort because it's next week, Tuesday. I keep repeating that because the appeals have come from all angles over the period, and the EC appears to remain where it is. You said you have heard the EC's reasons. Can you share some of those reasons with us? What are the reasons for wanting to keep to the less than 300 offices rather than the 6,000 plus, centers?
I can't remember saying we have heard into reason. I said that I don't know what input they have put in to make sure that they will be able to get this number. But we believe that we will continue to dialogue. Why not? The Electoral Commissioner, they are human beings. If we even start, and there are some of these issues that are ongoing, and they realize that what majority of people are saying, they can change. It's not cast in stone. And the Electoral Commission are human beings. If they believe in their machinery and the human resource that they have, and we start and we see that it's not going to be possible, why not? We have always done so.
Okay.
When registration starts, at some point in time, the Electoral Commission can introduce other measures to be able to make sure that some of these numbers are covered. So, for me, and as a party, we believe that dialogue is key.
Okay.
And we wait to see when this process
Are you concerned as the NPP, are you concerned as the other parties that doing it at the district offices, you lose something? If you do it at the electoral areas, you can have people who are there who can make the right objections. But if you go to the district office, someone is coming from far away, 80 kilometers to that place. You may not even know them. And there are other issues they raise. Are you equally concerned about these issues? Again, they raise the fact of the constitutional provision that says that the EC is supposed to organize programs that will expand the registration of voters. Expand is the keyword here, operative word. And they refer also to the regulations which say, or the CI, which says that when it is doing this exercise, it must consider places that are suitable potentially to be used as polling stations. You can't use the district office as a polling station. Are you thinking about these things? Are you concerned as well? Hello, Haruna. I think we have lost Haruna. Yes, Haruna, please, let's hear you. Please unmute your mic.
Okay.
Good. We can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, please.
Okay. I'm very much concerned with the various points that you have enumerated. And I believe that registering at the center, that is the Electoral Commission Center, also has its own advantages and disadvantages. Registering or expanding to the various electoral areas or the additional areas also has its advantages and disadvantages. And I believe that all these particular issues that have been raised are valid. However, it is for us to be able to engage the Electoral Commission to be able to understand and appreciate all these facts that we are putting out so that we'll be able to get more people to register. I don't think that points that have been raised by other opponents are invalid, but we have a different position and we are all going to arrive at one particular point in time. You may say so that using this particular angle might give you a lesser number. And in conclusion, you might also see that it gives you more numbers than. So it is about process and how we all go about it. Okay,
thank you. Theodore, can we hear you briefly on this, very briefly? The EC has its district offices, 268 of them. Actually, there are 268 of such district offices. And these suits are seeking to get it to add the electoral areas, or rather use the electoral areas. And we have 6,272 electoral areas. What do you appreciate is why the EC is insisting on using its district office? I think I've heard one reason. That is that for the limited registration, which is for this period until, is it sometime in, is it October? After that, they are hoping that the continuous registration will be available. So if anybody has not registered, the continuous registration, which should have happened how many years ago, will be available. So you walk into their office and you register. What do you say?
My starting point will always be that additional rights. I repeat, administrative procedures are slave to constitutional rights. So whenever you find that constitutional rights become slave to administrative procedures, then we have a problem. That is number one. Number two, this exercise should be for the greatest number, for the widest possible net to engage the whole populace of Ghana. And so to have it so limited and so constricted that there is a likelihood that people will not be able to engage is an offense. An offense of social justice is an offense against individuals being able to exercise their constitutional rights and in fact, being able to exercise their franchise. So let's pull back. You know, justice not only must be done, but it must be seen to be done. At this stage, the seeing is not happening and the doing is not happening. So I would say to my honorable friend that we need to go back to the drawing board and ask the EC to have a wider net cast to engage the greatest possible number so that all Ghanaians can exercise their franchise. It is not good to so constrict it because it will then reek of some sort of conspiracy, and we don't want to go there. Thank you very much.
Now that the injunction applications are being filed left, right, center, it does appear we are getting into the situation like the Ayi Mensah case, right? Where this one individual, you know, his right was being frustrated and led by his able counsel, Afenyama King, went to the court, and the EC had already done all the preparations, spent all the money to start the process. And the court said, hold on, you can't have it. Until his matter was heard and he was adjudged victorious, and we were told we lost millions of Ghana cedis in the process. Haruna is talking about the need, you know, to as it were, negotiate and deliberate rather than going to court. Because if you do this, once the injunction applications are served on the Electoral Commission, their hands are tied. They can't organize this process on Tuesday. And that will mean cost to all of us as a state. We're a broke nation, are we not?
Okay, so let me say this. I'll quote my grandmother, God bless her. I say, 17 is court time. When you frustrate the rights of the citizenry and they have no recourse to any other solution, where else would they go? Back to court. That is number one. And why do you make the victim of this situation the victim? It is for the EC to step back and say, we will expand the exercise to address the concerns. It's not for the victims, the vocal victims, to shout and scream.
I just mentioned again that we are broke. We know that as a matter of fact. Why do we want the EC to spend so much money for 6,000 plus centers?
You see, in law, with respect, it is better for many guilty persons to go free than one innocent person to go amiss. And I'm telling you that this isn't a matter where you say we will ignore the rights of the individual. The EC is a servant of the people. I repeat, the EC is a servant of the people. And so when the people give a voluble sound and a note to them to say, please, where you're going is not good for us, they need to pull back. As for the resources, look, we have found money for many things, of which I don't want to go into, but empowering the citizenry to make a choice as to who governs them, to my mind, is a paramount right that should not be excluded by administrative technicalities.
Okay.
So please, money, resource should not be an issue or an argument for denying me of my right,
all right,
constitutional right to vote.
Thank you, Theodore. Now, I need to put this also across that in the course of the week, once the suit was filed, and we understood, particularly at the Supreme Court, and we understood that the injunction application, the registrar was unable to give a date. The suspicion that you have heard some people raise is that this is the EC, as in working with the executive. EC is part of the executive, is it not? Working with the executive, so to speak, and the courts to try and, stop and frustrate the NDC and the other parties from being successful at it. Because the point is that once a date was given, then they could have served the processes on the EC. But once they were unable to get the dates, they are unable to they are unable to file it, and they are unable to serve the process on the EC. And not serving it on the EC meant that on Tuesday, the process will go on. And they were told that there's a directive from the CJ that they can get a date on Monday. You have heard all sorts of suspicions raised about that. I have confirmed that the directive by the CJ was not given as a result of this application, but it was given before it. So they didn't even know and didn't expect that there will be any such suit coming. And that there are actually other applications and motions that are sitting there that have suffered the same fate. So the conspiracy theory that this is deliberate to frustrate those who have gone to court, I think this is just for you. But now that is being filed all over the places, I suspect the EC would have been served. So it looks like a legal strategy.
So the EC hasn't served. I mean, I can tell you as a matter of fact that the EC hasn't served.
Yes, not the one with the Supreme Court, because that one you don't have a date, so you can't even. Right.
So the second thing is that Haruna says that dialogue. Conventions with this suit number J1/22/2023 was filed on the 4th of was it 4th? Yes, 7th of September 2023. The parties are.
I've read it.
The NDC. Good.
Yeah.
The most important point I'm making here is that 3 or 4 members 4 parties to this suit were part of a meeting at the Electoral Commission with the NPP sitting in the meeting. These four political parties objected to limiting the registration to the district offices. So, Mama Haruna, this decision of the EC to limit the registration of new voters to their district offices was objected to at an IPAC meeting by 4 of the 5 parties to this. So there have been dialogue. Instead of the dialogue got them nowhere.
Okay. Thank you very much. There's also the Domestic Election Observers, CODEO,
yes,
which also appealed to the EC to listen. There is NCC.
Scare Ghana.
Yes. Okay, so the EC must have a better reason, but unfortunately, it does look like this is where we are going, and maybe on Tuesday this cannot happen, and they would have put the nation to cost. But let's see. Dialogue is always good. We can talk between now and then and see how things go. Thank you very much. Send us your messages. We will share them with the rest of the world. And do you also think that public funds should be put to this kind of litigation? Should the EC use your money to hire lawyers to go to court and insist that it should remain the less than 300 districts where this exercise will go on, instead of what the parties are insisting on, that it should be in the 6,000 plus centers, electoral areas? Share your messages with us. Now, let's quickly go to the NPP's home. And as you know, Alan Kwadwo has withdrawn from the delegates conference that will elect the flag bearer in November. And he has given a number of reasons. Let me share just about 1 or 2 of those reasons with you. And let's begin to ask the questions if he is justified or not in what he talks about. There are people who have issues with how he seeks to raise his concerns. But well, he's entitled. He's the one on the field, and he is the one putting himself up. So he's entitled to raise the issues the way he has done them. I'll share that with you shortly. But he says some very despicable things happened in the... Let me read it. He says that after having carefully analyzed the results of the elections, it is absolutely clear to me from events leading to, during and after the elections, that the Special Delegates Conference was strategically and tactically skewed in favor of one particular aspirant. The pronouncements made by some leading members of our party, both before and after the elections, also lend weight to my observations. Remember, right after you have picked the 5 people who should go to the next round, it's now being said, oh, Bawumia got enough. Don't waste our time. Everybody should withdraw, and then we call it a day. He says the level of intimidation of varying intensity, directly and indirectly, unleashed on a significant number of delegates at various voting centers across the 16 regions is unprecedented. We will fact check if this is true. And if it is true, where is the evidence freely? It's unprecedented in the history of our party. In addition, the fact that my polling agent in the Northeast region has suffered severe damage to his eyesight, arising from his bold and courageous effort to ensure compliance with the very rules and regulations for the conduct of the elections as approved by the Presidential Election Committee, will forever remain a dark spot in the history of internal elections within the party. This incident and various acts of violence and collusion reported in other voting centers are appalling, unconscionable, and despicable. I'm committed to and value the safety of those who work with me and for me, and I will always fight for their interests. The question I keep asking myself is, quote, how did we get here as a party in the first place? And how far are we prepared to tread on this dangerous path to self-destruction? Remember that, self-destruction. Now he says, regrettably, I am not convinced that the circumstances I have referred to earlier will not persist or even be escalated in the next round of elections, for which balloting is scheduled for Wednesday, the 6th of September. Well, that has also been shelved. In the light of the foregoing, I wish to confirm that I am honorably withdrawing from the process that will lead to the presidential primaries to be held on the 4th of November 2023. In the next upcoming weeks, I will provide an indication of the role that I will play in politics in Ghana after consultations with my family and other well-wishers, various stakeholders and interest groups. And that brings me to my very first question. Honorable News of Seni, clearly, Alan has been bruised, he's hurting, he's bleeding, he's hemorrhaging really bad over a humiliation by the votes. Not only the votes that he got, but also by the fact of the caliber of the character who beat him to second place. This could be the only reason that he's avoiding humiliation further.
No. Samson, you are not getting Alan right. You see, Alan went into the elections complaining that this appears to him to be an establishment candidate. That almost everybody is being whipped into line.
He was once an establishment candidate.
He was once an establishment. I agree with you.
Flying in helicopter.
So he knows one when he sees it.
Paid for by the state.
So he knows one when he sees it. And so he's left the party disappointed.
He went into the elections.
He went into the elections.
You said he was complaining before it.
He went into the elections. During campaigns, he fought the elections complaining, seriously. Complaining. In fact, his complaints forced Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the president, to issue a disclaimer. It's his complaints.
They still don't believe that the president does not support Bawumia.
They still do not believe that, and I agree with you. And look at the words he has chosen to use. He says, what happened in their elections? It's appalling.
Unprecedented.
Unquestionable.
Despicable.
These are words of strong condemnation.
You follow the elections.
He says that...
You follow the elections.
Yes.
And you are a very, very colossus in this area. Do you support the claims he makes?
To some extent. Because normally, like I said yesterday, I would have said, I will abide by Atambil's exhortation that Mendimi Fiasem. But this is Ghana. This is our democracy. Parties are enjoined by the Constitution to conduct their affairs along democratic lines.
Yes.
And so if, as a dispassionate political observer, you see a party not conducting itself on democratic lines, you have a right to talk about it because it can affect the national consciousness. I think Alan has a point. But I think he was fighting against a very tall order.
He has a point to raise and elevate a multitude of suspicions into unprecedented violence, intimidation, despicable, unconscionable conduct.
Were there suspicions?
Is that evidence?
Were there suspicions?
He's mentioned only one instance where there is evidence to.
And you have seen one instance on national TV where the a regional chairman took a microphone around on the campaign platform of Dr. Bawumia, asking potential voters how they will vote. It's like, where is it done? Where is it done, Samson? You've seen in the northern region where the agent of Alan Chiramanten had to slap a regional chairman. Oh, you've not heard it. Matilda Bugri has not told you.
Martina Bugri.
Martina Bugri has not told you that. or it must pass. You've seen the accusation of the chief of staff ensconcing herself in the woman organizer's office, ostensibly to influence the outcome of the election.
Is Alan such a weakling within this, conduct that he's intimidated by a few people? Who are these people? And and he can't marshal a plan to beat them to that.
I know you are a consummate reader. Haven't you read what this man has said? Robert Plunkett has said about the establishment. When the establishment has a candidate, in fact, you'll be risking if you fight the establishment candidate. They will deploy all the arsenals against you because they don't want the humiliation. They want to prove a point. Alan knew from the beginning that the fight was going to be difficult. And I agree with you on your assessment. They did not talk about victory. I don't think the contest was to elect a victor. The context was a selection context. They had learned from the mistakes of 2008. And so they didn't want a repeat. But Obim Menu, the late Obim Menu, lawyer Obim Menu, you remember,
right,
has said one famous statement when I was in secondary school, and that stuck with me. Repeating mistakes has never been considered as experience. So the fact that you continue repeating mistakes, you can't say that you have learned from your experience. How do you change the rules of a game in the middle of a game?
What rule was changed?
Oh, Adanimo and who is it? What's the name?
Gwachejako.
Samson, when we were sitting on a platform like this, we should be, there's a presumption of regularity.
But their constitution tells them that where there are no rules provided, they have the power to determine those rules.
When the management
they didn't anticipate that they will go for a superdelegate to select 5, ending up selecting, six, and 2 people.
They didn't anticipate. So you see, it's the incompetence
needing to do a runoff.
It's the incompetence of the party that has manifested itself in Nana Akufo-Addo. How can you run an election to shortlist and not anticipate that the voting outcome can tie? How can you think that way and not make rules for that? You want us to believe that? I don't think Samson, level 101 student of law doing the constitution will not anticipate.
He has participated where these rules have been there already before. So, establishment candidate. Another person worked and got as many as 132 votes against him.
Yes.
Majority of the polls were that it was going to be either neck and neck with he and Bawumia, and he will be second because of his history and what he brings. Either he'll be second in this, quote unquote, and then, or maybe he'll beat Bawumia to it. Well, so to make 95 and get somebody who just got into the race, make 135 plus, that's humiliating. That's embarrassing.
You should understand.
That's why he's chickening out.
You should understand that the project to humiliate Alan was so encompassing. You should understand that. They didn't want him to come any close to Bawumia. In fact, they thought that their project to elect a flag bearer must end with the Delegates Congress. They were aiming at over 70% for Bawumia so that they could make a case for Bawumia to go into the elections without a Delegates Congress. They actively supported candidates from the Ashanti region to show interest in the fight. They actively. And I don't know what I'm talking to you about.
Well, it's only an allegation.
It's an allegation.
It's an allegation.
But so many months ago, about a year and a half ago, I chanced on somebody who was actively campaigning for the vice president. And he told me that, do you know that would you have what's his name? Afriye.
Also Afriye.
Is going to contest.
Yes.
Free. Now, so that was directed at the Ashanti region.
He was not doing this for the first time. Is it fair to make this kind of allegation
He was not
against Osofri Akoto?
He was not doing that for the first time. He was not doing that. I know he's not doing that.
Yeah, so it's not fair to say that he's been planted there by the establishment.
It's part of the establishment.
To beat down Alan's.
In fact, he's so close to the establishment that the establishment has spoken to him to back off.
Really?
He prized his relationship with the establishment. so many things, there could be many conspiracy theories, but I think that Alan is right. I mean, Samson, why do you think that Alan should continue in the fight?
In the Ashanti region,
in the nature,
Owusu Efriye Akoto got 5 votes, Alan Chirmantin got 10 votes, and Ken got 6 votes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And all the rest went to who?
Are you saying that the 5 would have gone to him, or what?
All the rest went to who?
They went to Bawumia, of course.
Of course. You know why?
No, but it doesn't support the allegation that he was. Let me.
No, but the fact that the outcome doesn't support what I'm saying doesn't mean that that was not the plan. Okay? With the plan, they still had to work. They still had to whip people into line. Okay? And that's why they swept the Ashanti region. I mean, and their plan was not Ashanti region, the whole of the country. Their plan was to garner enough votes for Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, the vice president, to make a case. And so you must understand that there were many prongs, many flanks.
Some actually say that the fact that as many as 132 super delegates, that's party leaders and influencers, prefer Ken to a man of Alan's stature tells a very sad story for the NPP. He got only 95 of the 950 votes, total global votes.
Yeah.
They say that the NPP is sinking low and will lose attraction. In fact, as many as 32, as against 25 of those supposed better enlightened delegates voting at the party's headquarters, prefer presenting Ken rather than Alan to Ghanaians for presidency.
Perfect.
And they say this shows you that the party degenerated, sinking low.
Yeah.
And for such a person to beat him, and for people in Accra who are the leaders to prefer him, Ken to him, is such a humiliation.
It's not only humiliation. Tells you the magnitude of the operation against Alan Chirmantin. So it means that even in Accra, Alan Chirmantin is not that favorably. I mean, the Accra people are not favorably predisposed to Alan. But I agree with you. All of us are revising our notes, not so. And I know you are revising your notes. The outcome of the elections or the Super Delegates Congress has forced you to look at certain things critically and ask questions, very critical questions. Are we looking on quality, qualification, competence, merit? What are we looking for? Are we looking for long service? Are we looking for commitment? Are we looking for loyalty? Loyalty to the party or individual? What are we looking for? So clearly, to be honest with you, watching what has happened in the NPP, I asked myself, what is it that they voted for? What does Bawumia represent?
Haruna, let me come to you here. Haruna Mohammed, I know some of my questions, you may not be the right person to respond to them because I wish you had some of the spokespersons for these people. But in an election, and I say not an African election, but one of global standard, the super delegates election was free, fair, and transparent, and ought not be described as Alan does because of, a few isolated incidences. Is that not your position? Hello, Haruna. Unmute your mic.
Okay.
We can hear you now.
Samson, I've never seen an election across the globe where election ends and nobody has anything to say. This is very familiar with elections across the world. And for him to have said what he said, I think that the party in its response have adequately said so to him. And in aspects of the letter that he presented to the party and the one he presented to the media, we have also responded to portions and disagree with some portions or assertions that he has made in his letter.
So, have you not demanded evidence, at least, so you would know whether what he's saying, if the media didn't see, because of the arrangements, how the voting was done, media was not even allowed into, these centers properly, so to speak, so that he would supply the evidence and then you can make a conclusion that he's solely elevating suspicions into evidence.
Samson, yes, we have, because Mr. Allen has been given the opportunity right from the beginning to the conduct of the super delegates election to make available any complaint that he has within the process. The elections committee availed itself. Every decision that the election committee had taken, he participated, or his assigned or agents participated in all the processes. And after the elections, these aspirants were invited and they were spoken to. They took the decision for them to be able to send their complaints to the elections committee, which will be referred to the disciplinary committee of the party, which has the power to investigate and report to the National Executive Committee. So all of the opportunities have been given to him. And that is why the party now responds is that it is very regrettable that Mr. Allen is taking this decision at this point to withdraw from the race. I think that every opportunity has been given him, but he decides to withdraw and cite them and put it out there in the media. You
think it's just a matter of a sore loser, sour grapes, just no substance?
I can say so, but what I'll have to say is that portions of the letter he wrote to us and some portions of the letter press statement he put out, not everything was put to the party. We have disagreed with portions. And if you indulge me, you read a portion where he said that there were very serious violations of the rules, regulations, and guidelines for the conduct of the elections in almost all the centers. When somebody says in almost all the centers, it means that it's giving you close after 90% of the centers. We have 17 centers for the elections. Those centers that this didn't happen, as you alluded to the fact, were some few places, let's say about 3 places, and if you calculate the percentage, that's about 17% of the centers. So for you to say in almost all the voting centers, it is inappropriate, and this cannot be a true representation of the outcome of the elections for the Super Delegates Conference. He also said that these primaries have been strategically and tactically skewed to favor one particular aspirant. Samson, I stand here again to disagree and to stand on the point of law that establishes the new patriotic party, and in Article 1319 of our party's constitution, this special delegates conference delegates has been predetermined. And every aspirant who had taken the point to pick nomination to contest knew very well that if we have more than 5 of the aspirants, we will go for super delegates. And these are the constituents of the super delegates conference. So if one has to say that this has been skewed for one particular aspirant, then the party wouldn't have, even in the first place, opened up nomination for everybody, since the party knew that you are going to skew something for one particular candidate. But it is very clear that this particular point, Mr. Allen misses. To also say that, to say that this particular, the results of his decision to go is because of what has happened within those particular centers, in terms of violation, in terms of intimidation and all that. The General Secretary of the party took it upon himself on Sunday, that was on the 27th of August, to petition mentioning and citing some persons, including Kennedy Ohina Japan, and some regional executives of the party, and which has been referred to the disciplinary committee of our party. And Samson, if you look at the disciplinary committee of our party, what is their function? The function of the disciplinary committee is read in Article 4 of our party's constitution,
all right. So,
which establishes that Samson, which establishes the fact that they are to investigate complaints concerning the misconduct of a member, make a full, faithful, and impartial inquiry into any complaint referred to it,
right.
report in writing the results of the inquiry and reasons leading to the conclusions reached,
right.
and make recommendations.
That's a standard function of any disciplinary committee. But Haruna,
this is the standard function. Now, let me conclude on this point.
All right.
Before you would come in. Mr. Allen had made complaints. The General Secretary had made complaint. Several other members of the party has made complaint. This is before the disciplinary committee. The disciplinary committee invited members of the party who has been cited. They have been spoken to, they have interviewed them, they are taking their initial comment and making sure they report to us. In the middle of this particular issues that is being emanating, someone comes out and then says that he's withdrawing because an action should have been taken. I'm not a lawyer, Samson. If anybody is accused of an act, the person must be given to go through the due process.
The fact that you couldn't do the balloting because he withdrew and there were complaints by the other candidates that need to be addressed, doesn't it give credence to what he's saying?
It is because we cherish democracy so much. If we wanted to be autocratic, we would have gone ahead and do the balloting. But the NPP in its establishment, in the core values of our party, believe in democracy. And if somebody has an issue, and that tells you that even before Mr. Allen had withdrawn, the party and the committee had given opportunity to them. All the guidelines that were established were established in line with them, also taking part in the decision. So we are giving role for this particular decision to be taken because we want them to be involved. And the right decision will be taken by the body that is established to take that. It is not at all to tell us that the Santa is not holding, but to tell us that the MPP cherishes democracy.
Thank you. Joining us also, Dr. Theo Champong. Thank you so very much for making time to join us from your base. Doc, once again, back to my initial question, and when you play the devil's advocate, sometimes you suffer, but this is my job, so I'll do it. If you think that I'm asking questions that you're not comfortable with, my job here is not to ask questions that make you comfortable. From the trajectory, at the beginning, the kind of confidence that Alan exuded, you don't think that this is just to avoid further embarrassment, that he had been so bruised and hurt, particularly that, as I mentioned, even the headquarters voting showed that leaders in the party prefer Ken being presented as presidential candidate to Ghana than Alan Tremantin for all that he stands for.
Morning, Samson, and I hope you can hear me just to check my sound.
Clearly.
Okay. It was not going to be a tall order for Alan, we know that. And I'll come to answering your question specifically. But I think the context is also important. So there's actually a news article going all the way back to 2008, produced by Kobe Asma and Donald Atto Dampare for Daily Graphic. So this is Friday, the 18th of August, 2008. And the headline is Alan Quits MPP. And in that story, there are a couple of lines there I want to read because I think that gives us a bit of context into what is also happening now. Because for me, it feels like a sense of deja vu all over, again. So put on quotes, it says that at the time of filing this report, no official reason has been given, but snippets of information indicated that Mr. Tremantin's supporters have not been happy with the treatment meted out to them by the campaign team of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the flag bearer of the party. And I'll read further down. The source also told the Daily Graphic that Mr. Tremantin's resignation was as a result of the alleged harassment of some of his supporters who wanted to contest the NPP parliamentary primaries. And reports also indicate that Mr. Chemantin wants to run as an independent candidate in the December 2008 elections. So you can see that this is from him, right? That you can go all the way back to the famed or infamous Legon Congress, where at that Congress, he got 736 votes. Akufo-Addo got a little over 1,000 votes. And even that time, it was very strong, but he pulled out of the second round, or before going into the second round, and Akufo-Addo then eventually, right, ended up contesting, although he lost the election. But the allegations that he made then about harassment and intimidation and all of that, you can literally fast forward to 2023, and similar allegations are still being made. Although you could argue, the question is, what is the scale of these allegations? Was it widespread? Was it systematic to the point of invalidating the Super Congress that was held? I don't think that was the case. The issue is that Alan faces a court order against Dr. Baumia and called him the establishment candidate. But he, at some point also, during the early to late 2000s, was also an establishment candidate. The other thing is that since he left the party itself, right, after his resignation and eventually came back, he lost a bit of his mojo or a bit of his touch with the grassroots of the party. People say, when you are married and you divorce or you separate and you come back into the marriage, sometimes things are never the same. And that is partly the challenge that he faced. Also, again, the backdrop that one of the dynamics in the party, the demographics, the people who vote, etc., will change fundamentally, right? So he had a tall order to face and a tall order to actually try and convince the people in the party, the super delegates, to contest. And if he had gone into the November, May Congress with the one with the 200,000 plus, delegates, it will still have been a bit of a tall order for him. So that's my reading of it. I don't think that all of the claims that he makes in there about things being pushed against him and tactically or strategically being skewed, etc., is fully borne out by the fact. Go back.
Do you think that the party is waking up to the illogic and waste in holding 2 elections instead of 1, even if there is over a dozen candidates? There are over a dozen candidates who are contesting.
No, so long as the party's constitution allows that, I have no issue with that, because there's the third process.
Should they do something? Should they do something about that? Is it not wasteful? Is it not needless to say let's shortlist before we vote on who should win?
No, because like I said, there's a process that the party itself had established to go through, and to the extent that that process was followed and did not flank any legal provisions.
I understand that. I'm talking about policy, future. Is this a necessary thing they should be doing? Is it necessary?
I think it's important, because if you have a field of, let's say, 30 plus candidates, it makes sense to whittle it down and then eventually settle on the top 3 or top 5 and present them to the super delegates. So that I don't have issues with. But the main thing now, Samson, really is what are the options for Alan, right, going forward? The way I read it, there are 3 possible options, right? He could lobby to become the vice presidential candidate if he wants, and already there are some instances of contestations.
It doesn't look that like that is available for him at this point.
It's not going to happen now because we know that bridge has been crossed. it's still an option on the table. The second option on the table is that he could actually retire entirely from politics and, become what I call one of the 5 gentlemen we had in the country who never got a chance to become president. So think of Busitano in the NBC.
Watchers say that someone who has his eyes and contemplates to be a vice presidential candidate or a vice president will not write letters in the terms and in the tone that he did. And that because what he has done will hurt the party.
Absolutely. So clearly, that is off the table, the first option, but it's still an option. And then retiring entirely from politics, which, if you read the tone of this letter, is a clear signal that probably he's had it and he's going to possibly retire. And to the point that some of us even argue that perhaps he should have even resigned from the Akufo-Addo government a bit earlier. Right after the first term, to concentrate on building his grassroots base and mobilization before this.
Now, how do you do that in our politics? In our politics, that's one needs to build a war chest from public funds.
But he's been around from the first term right through until the second term. I don't think that is necessarily an issue because he can raise resources from other places. If he really wanted to contest to the point of, wanting to win, again, look at even this poster, in some of the statements that were made prior to the election with, things like so and things like that. I mean, where the party is currently, if you look at the dynamic, those things don't necessarily sell or win votes. So the third option round, possibly could be open up for him something, is whether possibly in contest as an independent candidate, like the Daily Graphic was reporting back in April of 2008. And this one is very interesting because, again, if you look at the map of our politics in Ghana, right, election margins on average have been between 1% to the 10% right mark. But in recent times, you're looking at just about 3% winning margin. What that translates into is you need to only be able to do about 400,000 or so votes to change the outcome of the election in the country. So the question then is, if Ghana decides to contest as an independent candidate, and the planning from Global Info Analytics and others shows that at the general population level, he has some sort of appeal, right? Then that could actually spell disaster for the NPP.
Well, the matter you thought, but that would just be a comment. The CDD and others have come together and they've told us how you need $100 million, is it, to be able to run a successful presidential campaign, as much as $100 million. In our part of the world, you clearly have to make that money sitting in government, not staying outside of government. You need procurement, you need contracts, and get your kickbacks. That's how they make the money. Don't we know? We play ostrich. But my question to you here is, if you say they should keep this process, and we know always that once the process throws up the 5 people, the one who has the majority of votes becomes the one that everybody begins to campaign that let everybody sit aside and let this person go. Even in this case, you have 50 or 55 super delegates. That is less than 1% of the 220,000 who will actually decide who become the flag bearer. That's like 0.5%.
0.004.
Yeah.
You get it? So, and so it is not fair to suggest, for example, as we hear all of them saying now, everybody should step aside, don't let us go and waste our money in another election process. Don't you think they should rethink this process again?
So Samson, you're right that there is a signaling effect, if you have just less than 5%, or no, less than 1%, deciding to whittle the number down and then ultimately pushing that through to the wider 200,000 plus people. No two ways about that. The thing that we need to then unpack or sit back is, if you decided to let the 10 people go all at the same time, administratively, logistically, money-wise, right? How do we resolve that? So there's a trade-off that needs to be made. And the trade-off from my analysis of where things is, we need to then decide, okay, if you have more than, let's say, 5 people, which is the MPPs in this case, contesting, what do we do going forward? If the argument is that the process is not fair and it signals the choice of one preferred candidate over the other, then let's open it up and let all the 200,000 or whatever the number of delegates are vote in one go, and then we know who would be going for it. But I think in this particular instance, whether you did the super delegate, right, or you did the 200,000 at the same time, it was quite clear that England faced a tall order.
Right. Do you think, Honorable Yusuf Seni, just briefly, so we take a break and come to the two other bigger issues, do you think that what Alan has done spells the end of his political career? He has no option than to retire, and not what he has done, what he's been forced to do by the outcome leads him to that end, and again, that his statement hurts very deeply their agenda, their campaign in the 2024 elections?
Yes, clearly, I mean, starting from the last question, Alan is convinced that, and many people in the NPP are convinced that the NPP has pressed the self-destruct button. I mean, because your own research here shows that anytime Alan is active in the Ashanti region, NPP gets the numbers. And before I came here, I was listening to Otumfo advising Akufo-Addo when he won. That if you don't do those things that the people want you to do, we'll vote against you. Many chiefs have said that Nana Akufo-Addo has taken the Ashantis, or his government has taken the Ashantis for granted. Now you have treated their own. Omadishe, you've treated him.
Who has treated them? The delegates voted.
Well,
voted.
They know. We lift the veil sometimes, not so. We lift the veil sometimes, not so. I mean,
did you see Chairman Mutumi in the campaigns?
What interest does the chief of staff?
They are telling them this is who we want.
What interest does the chief of staff have in Baume's emergence?
So it will hurt their chances.
Yes, I don't think Alan is finished yet. Alan is so funny a gentleman. I was privileged to work with him when I went into Parliament 2006. He was a minister for trade, and I left Parliament as the longest serving member of the Trade Committee. So I worked with him during Kufuor's time. I've also worked with him during Akufo-Addo's time. And I know he's a fine gentleman. I don't think he's finished yet. I think many factors work to diminish his stature.
32.
Yes, many factors.
32
yeah.
of the party's, if you like, most enlightened brains and leaders here in Accra and overseas, because they all vote through the headquarters, right?
Yes.
32 say that it should be Ken who is presidential.
Not Alan.
And it's only 35 who say Alan can get that.
That's what we need.
That's the man you are talking about, his stature, that all of us know. That he's deep, he's a gentleman, you called him, and all of that.
Par excellence.
He's a performer.
He's a performer.
And yet this is what their leaders are telling him.
International bodies.
This is what their leaders are telling him. How can you say he will survive?
You must examine their minds. Really. I agree with you. That's why I don't want to comment on certain people. Because if I comment, I might be stoking fires. But you must examine their minds. How can you make a reasonable, rational, educated decision of that nature against Alan? I mean, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. No, but ministers have worked to conspire to demolish.
My question is, isn't that the last straw that breaks his back?
It is not. That goes into.
Where is his confidence?
That goes into a conspiracy. That goes into a conspiracy. Because he's still a fine gentleman. And he's got that old establishment.
He can't make second place in their, selection process.
Yeah, but...
And he loses by such a wide margin. So that if you have the votes of all 9 others, if you dash them to him, he still doesn't come anywhere close to Dr. Bawumia.
He doesn't come anywhere close. That is unfortunate. But that is when you are fighting the system. The system can humble you. The defeat is humbling enough.
He has a place in the politics?
Yes, he has a place in the politics.
In the party?
Well, no, probably outside the party. I mean, UNC.
How outside the party?
UNC was out of their party.
Okay, so how outside the party?
But there are many options. There are many disgruntled people.
Independent?
People,
set up a new party?
Let me tell you, as a political watcher.
Rekubrobe tried it, didn't get him anywhere.
Yeah, but as a watcher, people really think that all these projects is to enable a certain group of people within the MPP capture the MPP. So people who are outside that group are really annoyed.
Okay, let's see how annoyed they are on the 4th of November, because it's not only Bawumia who will be on the ballot on that day.
Obama is going to emerge.
I'm saying he's not the only person on the ballot. You think he's going to emerge? There's no question about it.
The machine has been so oiled that there's nothing that will stop him from emerging. That's why
it's a machine that has been oiled.
Oiled.
So that's a good campaign. That's an effective campaign.
Well, yeah.
So
effective
you should credit him for it.
Who?
Dr. Bawumia?
But he's not doing the campaign.
Anyway, we'll take a break. We come, I share your views with you. So many of you have sent in your messages. Send in also your messages, not only on the first issue about limited voters registration, but also tweet at us and send us messages what you think of the place of Alan, whether what he has done will hurt the party in the 2024 elections, whether this is the end of him, and whether in fact he only did this to avoid embarrassment, or that in fact he has germane grounds to do what he did. A Newsfile is brought to you by Bank of Africa, as strong as a group and close as a partner. MTN, everywhere you go. Ashesi University, educating ethical and entrepreneurial leaders for Africa. Robert & Sons Optical Services, your comprehensive eye care service provider for 31 solid years. Duroplus, they are producers of your quality PVC and HDPE pipes and water tanks. Where Duroplus goes, water flows. DBS Industries, roofing Papa Fie. My Way, you dial *165# on MTN to join My Way today. Syntex Tanks, it's strong, it's tough. Flamingo Paints, simply superior. We'll be right back. My guests are Inusa Fuseni, a former MP, former minister, and he is, of course, with the NDC. He's a lawyer. Haruna Mohammed is Deputy General Secretary of the NPP. Dr. Theo Echampong is political risk analyst and economist. We also have Theodore Albright, lawyer, council member, Center for Social Justice, and head governance, legal, and constitutional affairs pillar of that organization. And I almost forgot about you. In just some 2 minutes, what will you have to say to this race issue before we take a break?
I think that what Alan says needs to be taken very seriously. If he is considered worthy of running a campaign with the NPP, then he must be a person of substance and a person of high standard. And so you cannot simply dismiss what Alan has to say by saying that he's disgruntled. Well, yeah, the figures might work against him, but what he has to say should be taken seriously. And the second thing I'll say is that when you combine the figures for Alan and you combine the figures for Ken, that's rounded up about 25% or 1/4 of the total votes. And these two people complained about the process. And so we can't simply dismiss Alan's complaint as a sore loser, not at all. And from where I sit, I don't think the NPP are taking this matter seriously enough. And the signal that is then given is that it is either modus operandi or it is an acceptable way of addressing matters of democracy. And I'm rather pained, actually, when I listen to my fellow panelist, Deputy General Secretary for the party, speaking rather light terms on this matter. I think it ought to be giving the serious input that it deserves and not treated perfunctorily. So that is just the short comment I will make on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform.
The first audio is not authentic in terms of some aspects, but they admitted that some of them were authentic. Now, you've had the benefit of a tape on the assumption that it's authentic. The members of the committee will have to internalize that tape, and it is also transcribed and look at it. And that will give us the ideas as to what to do. First of all, do we bring all the stakeholders together with their lawyers for cross-examination and cross-firing to take place? Whilst we listen attentively, and later when they finish, then we will have our turn. And then, are there matters which should not come into the public domain because of national security implications? So we'll do long in-house or in-camera hearing. And then we make some good sense of it. So this is how we are going to go. We'll be guided strongly by the fact that this is not a simple exercise, and it's not everything that should be fed to the general public. It will have implications for the nation.
The Honorable Atacha is chair of the committee, ad hoc committee of Parliament that is investigating the leaked tape in which police officers, together with Bugri Nabu, are quote-unquote plotting the removal of the Inspector General of Police, Dr. Akufu Dampare, ostensibly because he will stand in the way of the NPP's election victory and needed to be removed. A lot of issues have come up. We're going to look at them right now, but let me share some of your messages. Mauli Tachi says the attitude of Madam Jane Mensah and her co-chairman calls for national condemnation. We cannot allow 4 or 7 individuals to break our democracy, all in the name of autonomy of power. Is the effect of that power not supposed to build rather than to break? Ananson John says the impunity of the EC is very offensive. Derek Kofi, it's striking to think that an NPP General Secretary is defending the decision of the Electoral Commissioner to embark on this limited voter registration in the manner it is seeking to do it. Prince Henry says, is it not amazing that the only political party defending the Electoral Commission decision to carry out its limited registration exercise only at the district capital is the NPP? I'm not sure the NPP has actually been in like a complete defense of the Electoral Commission. I'm not sure about that. So then you ask, is there something the NPP knows that many other Ghanaians don't know? And on the Alan matter, Ahiaka Richard says, sometimes you can lose the match but win the game. His withdrawal was apt and strategic for the bigger game. Which bigger game? It's over. Nana Ajiman says, man is tired. The betrayal is hard to bear. He can't witness the next phase of disgrace. Good he stepped out. Take care of yourself and grandchildren. Mawunya Fia Quist says, no matter how bad the odds are against you, you must never give up on your dreams. Amable Benson says, they have made Bawumia an establishment candidate. No need to contest. Kwame Rauk says the party already has a system candidate. All these processes are mere formalities. It was a waste of time and resources running in this race. Whoever wins is very likely to lose the general elections anyway. Smooth Love says, one politician I have always admired, one who carries himself so well. He has left everything too early. Now it will be hard to even gain face. Alan sold his birthrights. Well, many don't disagree with you. The way he carries himself and everything, more presidential. But that's what you see here in the national capital. The party's big brains voting in the national capital, 32 of them prefer someone else to him. Harry Olufunwa says, good decision. Why compete in a contest that has clearly been in favor of an anointed candidate? Then the Papo Brown says, it surprises me that the NPP thinks Bawumia, who is directly involved in this gross mismanagement of our economy, is a better candidate to present for the 2024 elections. Musa Abattoir in Asawase says, let's put ourselves in Alan's shoes. He is not treated fairly by the rank and file of the party because he had been promised in 2007 at Legon to allow Akufo-Addo to go, which he will take over after him. It's his turn, and that's why they were using slogans like Edru Neso. Now he's being hoodwinked by using Machiavellian tactics to get Bawumia to lead. Mind you, such decisions are collectively and not solely. I wish Alan well. All right, thanks for your message. This one from Alhaj Suleiman. He says, okay, there's a problem with our streaming. Please let the technical team take care of that. It says, I don't think Alan's decision will affect the party in any way. I'm surprised that an experienced politician of his standing every now and then writes on very flimsy excuses to take an early shower to the disappointment of his supporters. If for nothing at all, he should have learned from the contest between Justin Kodia and John Boadu, whether they were both non-establishment and establishment candidates, respectively. Kodia defied all odds and won. This presupposes that you can still beat the establishment if you do your homework well. The establishment cannot whip over 200,000 delegates in line. How can that be? Well, there are people who agree with Alhaj Suleiman, because they say when Alan was doing the walk thing, you know, the jogging thing they were doing, he had such crowds. So those crowds, they are not in the leaders. They are in the 200,000 who are going to vote. He says, I think Alan simply did what he did to save an impending embarrassment. Adainimo is my preferred candidate anyway. Okay, thank you. Let's see how far Adainimo will go. And Jacob Osei-Yeboah, independent presidential candidate, he says political parties could not fight for Ghanaians to acquire Ghana card. That can help them far better than voting card. That's the crux of thinking of partisan politicians, always thinking about how to get power to ruin the nation. Get power to ruin the nation, power. Okay, thank you very much. Dr. Park, your message is really long. Let me try and read just a portion of it for it. He says, Jean Mensah must understand that her job is to ensure that every Ghanaian citizen who has attained the voting age is given the opportunity to register and to vote. Unfortunately, she seems to relish doing the opposite. Chiefs, CSOs, religious groups, persons with disabilities, and political parties, leaders, MPs, and ordinary citizens have all called on the EC to decentralize the registration exercise to ensure that citizens are not disenfranchised. Yet the EC remains adamant. Who does Jean Mensah think she works for? So in whose interest is the EC working? Rigging elections isn't just about snatching ballot boxes. It includes voter suppression and disenfranchisement of eligible voters. We must resist this unreasonable and unlawful decision by the EC to restrict vote centers for the upcoming limited voter registration exercise to their district offices. The EC must be compelled to do the needful. Well, you have gone to court. Some will tell you, like they say sometimes, it's not everything that you go to court. Because when you go to court, you are giving it in the high court, you are giving one person the opportunity to make that decision for you. And their discretion, their interpretation of the law may not suit you. And you come and cry that it's biased judges. You go to the Supreme Court, maybe 5 judges. You have given the whole decision to them. If they take a decision and you don't like, what do? So sometimes it's not really about going to court. Now, the IGP's leak tape and the matters arising. Share your messages with us as well. And on that issue too, we're asking a very simple question. The committee intends or proposes that it might invite the IGP because of the comments that are being made and the allegations against him that he's not managing the police service well, that there are many people who are against his kind of leadership. There are allegations about, what's the name? Bugri Nabu having also lobbied for him to become the IGP, and as a result of that, he is giving him contracts in compensation. There has been tape in which that allegation is confirmed, that contracts have been given to Bugri Nabu to supply books to the police. There has been an allegation now that we understand that these are new evidence that the committee has. It's before it could use it, some people have already put those videos out, where Bugri Nabu is accused of being on the payroll of the IGP, 10,000 Ghana cedis a month, is it? And he says, yes, I am paid, but I am paid by the police service as an informant and not because I have done anything for the IGP. You say IGP should not be invited, and why not? The suspensions that have happened, the Constitution is very clear that if they are giving testimony before a committee like that, you can't use that against them in a civil or criminal process. So what's going on? What do you think?
Samson, first of all, this committee of parliament, the third-tier committee of parliament, is an ad hoc committee. To make it simpler, it's not a standing committee of parliament.
Okay.
Nor is it a select committee of parliament. An issue of national importance has arisen, and there is a need for parliament to understand these reasons and know how to deal with them. So when the committee was established, the committee was given its terms of reference, because it's an ad hoc committee. And what are the terms of reference? Establish the authenticity of the leaked audio recording. Authenticity.
Which they have already established so far.
Just investigate the veracity of the conspiracy. Investigate.
Which they have also established so far. Because those speaking on the tape have admitted these things. Okay?
Investigate any other matter contained in the audio. In the audio. So it's not about what they have said at the hearing. Any other matter contained in the audio. Make recommendations where appropriate, including sanctions.
If an accusation is made that he is the architect of the recording, does that qualify?
The terms are clear. You see, when a committee of the nature that is probing this issue now takes on many issues, the remit of the committee now becomes at large.
I think you should respond to my question directly. Those who have come,
yes,
they confirm that they are the voices on the audio.
Yes.
And then they say that the original audio is with the IGP, he has it. And they have said that it's the IGP who commissioned the recording.
But
is that relevant for the committee?
That's an allegation. What is relevant is that they've established, one, that tape is authentic, except that portions of it have been doctored. So its authenticity has been established.
Do you believe in those claims that portions have been doctored?
I don't even believe in them. I don't believe in them. And two, so the competition of NL is where now. And two, the veracity of the conspiracy has been established beyond doubt. Alex Mercer says, look, it's not today that I started lobbying for that position. And I went to Bugrinabu. Asari says, look, even Bugrinabu directed us to Malams. Conspiracy has been established and all met for one purpose. That's the definition of conspiracy. For a single purpose. To plot the removal of the IGP.
There's no basis to invite him.
He's not part of the elite tape. I'm just reading the terms of reference. I'm just reading that. I mean, it's a red herring, giant red herring. And if they invite the IGP, the committee will finish its work. Leave it. Many matters have come. Very serious, in my view. We've just been talking about electoral commission. We've been speaking about Alan Chiramente. At the basis of our discussion here is the right of the individual to determine who leads him. Someone says that in 2024, our right to determine who leads this country doesn't matter. And that he, if made IGP, can manipulate the outcome of the elections. That is subversive in the list. It's subversive. And he says that without regret. Now, that is also threatening the security of the state. Even when that was done on a smaller scale, which will be disputed, 8 people lost their lives. Now, the only reason why someone says I should be IGP is that I have the panacea, I have the magic wand to make sure that breaking the 8 is possible. And that the sitting IGP cannot help you break the 8. I mean, don't you think that is very serious for even, and sometimes, that's why when I was at Legon, my lecturer said that that's why they take time in getting people into the faculty of law. I can't imagine how a lawyer can think this way. Don't you think that is subversive? Then you are a professional policeman. You are in a bureaucracy. And you know that a bureaucracy has attributes.
He's a very young lawyer, though.
Yes, but whatever. You are at the faculty. You are at the faculty. No, you can't think that way. It's subversive. Now, you are in a bureaucracy. And you know that a bureaucracy has certain qualities, certain characteristics. You know they have an interest. All bureaucracies For the police, their interest is to protect life and property or maintain law and order, or through the maintenance of law and order. That's what they stand for. And you also know that they have values. And their values have been captured so subtly in their motto. Service with integrity. You know that. And you're a lawyer. What does that mean to you? It is clearly lowering the police in the estimation of reasonable thinking men. If some officers of the police can go to conspire for the removal of the topmost guy. Because, again,
as far as you are concerned, the committee is done its work.
It's finished.
You just go and write its report.
Oh, Samson, no, it's not me. It's the terms of reference. Atacha is now embarking on the frolic of his own.
So the report, let's say they haven't said positively that they will invite him. They said they've also gotten further evidence and things, and because the IGP is being mentioned, they may bring him. They said may.
They're lawyers. Is it part of their terms of reference?
Okay. You are saying that in this process,
yes,
if they stumble on even more serious information,
what they need to do is to go to Parliament for Parliament to include that in their terms of reference.
Okay.
Because they will be acting out of their terms of reference.
Okay. The question I've been asking is, what exactly can this committee do?
Yeah,
if
so
the report, what would they say?
They will say, well, they have established, so they'll write a brief history, how the referral was done to them, how the committee was constituted.
It's authentic, the people have admitted it, they've admitted plotting to remove him because somebody wanted to become an IGP. And so what?
And they evaluate the evidence.
And then what?
And their recommendations.
What would they recommend?
They can recommend sanctions.
Sanctions?
Yes.
They recommend to who?
To the Parliament, and Parliament will direct it to the Attorney General or the Minister of Interior, dependent. They can recommend something.
Okay.
Yes.
Which could include sacking them
from their police service.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. In the meantime, the Police Service Act itself and their CI is very clear.
Yes.
That if you are in office and you engage in activities outside your police duties, which will bring you into political controversy, damaging the reputation of the service, you are not allowed to do that. It is a misconduct.
Gross misconduct.
Right.
Yes.
On the basis of that, the police is seeking to discipline them. So it must set up a disciplinary committee. So it says he intended to do that. Then, so they issued a statement and said, this was the second one, following the interdiction of COP, Mr. George Alex Mensah, Superintendent Mr. Emmanuel Eric Jebi, and Superintendent Mr. George Lysander Asari in connection with the leaked audio tape, the police administration would commence disciplinary proceedings into their conduct upon completion of the ongoing probe by Parliament. In order not to prejudice the ongoing probe, the police administration has suspended their interdiction. So there was a first release saying that they had been interdicted, they should hand over all property.
Don't you see that it was weird? That leak tape came up long ago. We all had opportunity to comment on it. So the police would have heard it anyway. They waited until Parliament set up a committee. The committee starts work. And in the middle of the work of the committee, you are interdicting this. It's prejudicial. You can't do that.
Somebody said that could be contempt of Parliament.
No, it's even prejudicial. I mean, you can't do that. Two things. That's why when one institution is handling a matter, another institution will have to wait for that matter to be completed before that institution takes up any aspect of that matter.
Right.
So no. When they issued that, I said, no, but you can't do this. So it didn't come to me as a surprise.
Some said because it involves the IGP himself. But we have been made to understand, which is naturally, the natural thing that would have happened, is that he will not be part of the disciplinary process or any decision that will be taken against them because this is about him. And so we have been told that he won't do that. He will recuse himself.
I just hate to hear such excuses. It involves the IGP itself. This is about the police service. It's not about the IGP. It's the conduct of 7 policemen that have attracted the attention of the police. And the police have got rules. So the rules are being given effect to. It's not the person.
They are saying he lobbied to become who he is and lobbied also through this person. If somebody else goes to that person to lobby, what's the offense? Why are you wasting our time in this thing?
Because his was not recorded.
It's wrong to lobby?
This was not recorded.
Don't they lobby?
We don't know what he said.
They all lobby. So what is wrong?
We don't know what he said.
So what's wrong with lobbying?
What is wrong is it came out in the tape recording.
Lobbying and maligning somebody. It happens.
And they have been lobbying all over. They've been lobbying all over. The police have been lobbying all over. Even 2 days ago, me and a private citizen, somebody was lobbying me that when we come to power, he wants to go to a police college.
Okay.
So they lobby all along. Yes.
Well, I sit here without any such powers, but you can't imagine the number of people who get to me asking what they think I can do. Yes. All right, so let's hear from Theodore. Theodore, what do you make of these developments, and do you agree that the committee's work is almost done? They shouldn't bring in the IGP because that would be diversionary, and the things that are being confirmed about the accusations against the IGP also is not necessary? Yeah, Theodore. Please unmute your mic.
I think, with respect, we are ignoring a huge elephant in the room. You know, we're beginning to see a pattern, and the pattern is this. The EC limits the number of stations for people to exercise their franchise, i.e., to be able to register. And then on the back foot, you hear somebody say,
sorry,
I will help you.
Sorry.
I will help you.
Sorry, we have moved on.
Yes, I just want to make a connection between the two.
Okay, I get that.
And then on another side, you hear somebody saying, if you make me IGP, my role and my mission will be to intimidate people and break the age. All right? So we have a serious issue which goes to the fundamental basis of our democracy. And this is way more important than whether the other matters, although not. I'm not dismissing the IGP issue, but I want us to focus on that. Here are machinations to limit the exercise and the constitutional rights of fellow Ghanaians across the nation, either by brute force or by Machiavellian tactics. And then you have somebody like Kennedy Japan complaining about internal elections, and you have somebody like Alan Tamatin complaining about internal elections. Okay, so we are beginning to see a pattern which is dangerous for our democracy in this country. Okay, internally, people are complaining, 25%. Those two people want 25% of the votes. And then you have an individual who said, I will help you intimidate so that the other party cannot win. And then on the same slide, you have somebody saying, we will limit the sentence so that you have to travel 80 miles to register so that you can be put on the electoral roll. Come on, guys, let's open our eyes, because we are treading a very dangerous path. Now to come to the issue of Altachian's committee. What were dare I say, what was it that was required in terms of reference of the committee? Have those been met? And unequivocally, they have. Anything going beyond that may be considered a friction exercise, and it may be permitted to an extent. But now we ought to be wrapping up. Okay? There's no dispute that people are lobbying, and frankly, it is okay to lobby. There is no dispute that people are being paid, question mark. But for me, what sticks in the gut is, give me that role And the consideration is, I will help you win.
Is it?
That individual ought.
Is it doing justice to this matter if all that the committee will do is to say the voices on the tape, those who are public officers, they are the only ones who should suffer any, punishment? Is that doing justice to what you say is very serious like that on that tape?
You think you take your victim as you find you take your victim as you find him or her. You take your terms of reference, God bless them, as you are given, and you proceed with what you've got. If way leads on to way, or we go down a rabbit hole, and we are also able to uncover other conspiracies, then we will deal with them as such. But right now, in front of us, what we have is a classic admission that there was conspiracy, there was lobbying, there is taking of money, and more importantly, there's a conspiracy to disenfranchise members of the public, Ghanaians, fellow Ghanaians.
Okay. Let me go to Theo. Let me go to Theo now. Theo, from what Inusa and Theodore have spoken about, agree that the committee practically is done with its work. Would you then say that the committee's members are wasting our ears, they are wasting our time? Because, to be frank with you, you hear some of them, they are just doing the political equalization game. They're using that platform to sort of sanitize one party or dirty the other party, depending on which witness they are talking to and so on. So they should close shop and give us a report.
Yeah, we are waiting for the report. I think there were some issues with my sound earlier, so I hope this is much better now.
Yes.
But the point is, what were the terms of the reference of the committee, and have they been met? Largely, we all agree that that has been met. So let's just submit the report, and then we will take the follow-on actions as needed. But my big worry in all of this, which is the point that Theodore also has made, is, look, in all of these contestations and things we're watching on TV, it shows you the deep partisanship and the extent to which almost all of the key institutions in this country, including the constitutionally mandated ones, have all been, infested with this idea of, the partisanship, NDC, NPP, and to have, a senior police officer on tape make serious, allegations.
We'll ask that question about the judges. You remember, that's part of the discussion here. Even though it doesn't appear we may have time to do that, but if we don't, we can keep that for the next week.
But I think that is really one of the big things that we should take away from all of this, beyond the treachery and the conspiracy to get the IGP out. The idea that, somebody who is connected or affiliated to one party can come in and use the instruments and institutions to, favor one side against the broader collective will of Ghanaians. That, for me, is a very serious national security issue that goes to the heart of the constitutionalism that we're practicing.
So well, that's actually needless. So let me move to Haruna and just ask what your position will also be. This matter should end here. All the other matters that are being brought up, we should leave all of that.
Samson, I think that I needed to have been given some time to speak when it was on the NPP issues. My senior brother in the studio had all the time to speak and then garnish all the food.
Haruna, we are now talking about the leak tape.
I know.
Yeah.
I know, Samson. I'm just saying that I needed to have enough time to prevent my senior brother from garnishing from food that was prepared in our party. And just for me to make some few clarification and move on.
Unfortunately, I have very limited time, and if you go on some other subjects, you may lose your opportunity to speak to the other subject.
Okay, thank you very much. The 3 points have been mentioned about the authenticity, the terms of reference that is giving them, the veracity, and any other matter that is contained in the audio. For me, my position is that if the committee deems it fit on the third item, that is the any other matter that is contained in the audio, I think that they can invite the IGP to also put out his side of the story. In your media ethics, if somebody's name is mentioned on a particular items, what you do is to invite the person to hear the side, his side of the story, or in any other matter.
The ethics are that if you are mentioning someone and there will not be an opportunity for them to speak, I don't even allow you to mention them.
Yeah, so now in this case, the person's name has been mentioned severally. He has been accused. He is told that he's the one who recorded it and he has the original audio. All these matters. I think that the committee, to be fair, has to invite the IGP because it may be true and it may be not true. So I think that the IGP should be invited to clear his side of the story so that at least in Parliament receiving the report, we'll see that there is some level of fairness, there is some level of representation. So for me, I don't agree with the fact that the IGP should not be invited.
Okay, but in the meantime, what should we do about the further leaks that suggest some wrongdoing? At least, Bugri Nabu has made some admissions in the new leaked audios. What should happen to that?
If the new audios, or the videos that is there, if it falls within the terms of reference, and if it is not illegal, or if the committee has the power to look at them, I think that the committee can look. But if the committee doesn't, this should be added as appendices to the report that is going to Parliament, and Parliament will so look at it. But what I see afterwards here is that there should be a very competent commission that is put in place, that is headed by many security experts. But a judge must be put as a chairperson for this particular committee, an extended committee that will look at this particular matter. This matter is burden on the security of this country. My security, your security, and everybody's security. So we need to look at this particular matter and get to the bottom of it, not to end it at the parliamentary committee level.
Okay. So I'm going for a break, but by your law, once it is done, then the police can also do their investigation.
Well, can do their investigations.
So if there is a recommendation that says, get them, push them off the ship, what would they have to be investigating again?
The recommendation from the Parliament through the Attorney General or the Minister will supersede the Police Council.
That's why the present action is premature.
It's premature.
Okay. So the Constitution declares emphatically, unequivocally in Article 121, Clause 4, that an answer by a person to a question put by Parliament shall not be admissible in evidence against him in any civil or criminal proceedings out of Parliament, except proceedings for perjury brought under the criminal law. So everything they say there, unless they have told a lie.
Go there to tell lies. If you tell lies, we'll punish you. That's all.
Except that they are immune.
They are immune.
They are getting almost the immunity.
That's
you guys
why
have.
they are speaking the way they are speaking. You don't see it.
Okay.
Lawyer.
Okay. All right, we take a break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. My guest, Inusa A.B. Fuseni, lawyer, former MP, Tamale Central, and former Minister Roads and Highways. Theodore Albright is lawyer, council member of the Center for Social Justice, and he heads the governance, legal, and constitutional affairs pillar of that CSO. Haruna Mohammed is Deputy General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party, and Dr. Theo Echampong is political risk analyst and economist. Earlier, we were to have Alexander Kwamena Afenyo-Marking, MP Efutu, and Deputy Majority Leader join us, who is also, I think he chairs the committee of the, that is seeing to the elections in the NPP. But for some, reasons beyond his control, he has not been able to be part of the discussion. The fact is that, well, the party's Deputy General Secretary is here. Afenyo Makin should join us maybe next week when we may have sufficient time to look at this next other issue, because I think I've heard him speak to it at the law school of Cape Coast University, and speak to it in a good way. So we should be able to have Afenyo Makin join us. We're sorry about that, because we announced that he was going to join us. It is actually not his fault that he was unable to join us this morning. The show is brought to you by kindest sponsorship of Bank of Africa, as strong as a group and close as a partner, MTN, everywhere you go. Shasi University, educating ethical and entrepreneurial leaders for Africa. Robert & Sons Optical Services, your comprehensive eye care service provider for 31 years. Duroplus, where Duroplus goes, water flows. You need Duroplus. DBS Industries, roofing, Papa Fie, My Way Insurance. Dial *16# on MTN to join My Way today. Syntex Tanks is strong, it's tough. Flamingo Paints, simply superior. We have less than 10 minutes. What can we do with that? Let me see. I'll share a couple of your messages, then I'll see if there'll be a minute to say a little comment, because this issue we have to discuss it the next time. Gasma1 says, very troubling and unsettling to think that one individual is willing to plunge this country into chaos, and all for what? The position of the IGP. Wow. Isn't he and the others? Why isn't he and the others arrested till now? Very unsettling. Pastor Mensah says, my humble opinion, from the very day the tape was leaked, it's for the committee to do in-camera findings and recommendations so that the integrity of the police service and the Inspector General of Police will not be in mud. Now things are getting out of hand. Somlo says, I cry for my safety. I do not worry about these things anymore. If the police service cannot focus on its core mandate and be doing these things to themselves, I wonder where my safety is. Don Arthur said, this is what happens when politicians or politics is allowed to take every strand of a nation where we can't separate politics from our political issues. Favor is given to the undeserving. That's what you say. Favor is given to the undeserving. And Festus says, the sole purpose of the parliamentary committee is to investigate matters surrounding the subversive plot to remove the IGP for political reasons in violation of the applicable laws and regulations. No diversions must be entertained to dilute the seriousness of this matter. Okay, so what can you say within this very brief time? The NDC had its annual meeting with 8 lawyers who are in the NDC, and President Mahama addressed them and suggested that the judiciary has been packed with some 80 to 100 cronies, and that there was a need for NDC lawyers in the NDC to offer themselves for the job of being judges so that they can balance the equation. He said, I encourage some of you to look at careers on the bench so that we can balance out the current situation. We must be prepared as NDC legal persons to also go onto the bench so that we can balance the judiciary.
Yeah,
He's been condemned.
No. John Dramani Mahama did not say that he was going to Makola to take NDC sympathizers onto the judiciary. He spoke to lawyers. And basically, he's speaking to merit. That before you get to the judiciary, you must be a lawyer. And you must want to go there. He didn't say, I'm going to send you there. He said, you must want to go there. You should develop interest. But more importantly, what John Dramani Mahama said, and I've said it on your platform here, has a basis in science. If you want to create equilibrium, what do? Your reaction to a situation must be equal to the initial what? Action. If the judiciary has been packed and you want to neutralize, to balance it out, your reaction must be equal. That's that's Newton's third law of motion. That's what it says. Samson,
I ask myself, the way we elevate this matter, how many matters go to the court that are political? How many?
He's just saying that go to the courts. Also develop an interest in the court. Because the courts are a democratic institution. That is why in American realism, there's always a conscious, deliberate attempt to balance out the courts. You saw what happened in Roe and Wade. When the court was unbalanced, what happened? 100-year decision was what? Overturned.
I have an article in American Realism here titled How Judges Judge, Theories on Judicial Decision Making, and it opens with this quote: "The great tides and currents which engulf the rest of men do not turn aside in their course and pass judges by."
They don't. They carry judges.
They live with us.
They live with us.
The judges vote. Judges have parties that they belong to, some. But is it not the expectation that once you take on that oath, judicial oath, there are people who are professional enough, and judges have been appointed by presidents, and they have disappointed those presidents who, when they wanted them to do something for them.
Koshiga at the law faculty said, look, probably we must be looking at a different structure and probably insulate judges more against condemnation. That you see, they have been given security of tenure. If you get them onto the bench, you can't remove them. So they should be bold enough to take decisions, even if those decisions are against you. But what John Dramani Mahama is saying should be discussed within the broader context for me and you, and for our listeners. Who has done the profiling of the judges? No, what have you done the profiling? Are the judges in all the courts representative enough? Are they?
He's concerned about the numbers.
He's just
increase from what the numbers were
he's
also.
just even taken one shade. Ideological persuasion for matters of concern. He thinks that the judges are populated, the courts are populated by liberal thinking judges. The people who share social, ideological, or other ideologies are not represented.
Oh, that's what he meant.
Yes, that's what he meant. It's about democracy, they're about representation. That you see, I was reading Obama's book, the Wise book.
Do our parties really represent ideologies?
Yeah, well,
really?
So that's what he meant.
Our parties
He
are
said, look,
election machines.
For me and you, when people see, you don't know what you're doing to great many people in the northern part of Ghana. When they see you and they're in school, they think they can aspire to be you. Obama, when he wanted to be president, and he said, America don't kill you. What do you want to be president for? Just live your simple life. He says, if I become president, America will never be the same again. The African-American child, the Puerto Rican child, the Indian child will see himself in me. So we need to be represented. Do a racial profiling, and you will come to the conclusion that John Dramani Mahama is more than right. He's fair in that comment. There are judges who have not been empaneled since Nana Akufo-Addo came into office.
Which of the courts? You mean
Supreme
like
Court.
Court of Appeal or
Supreme Court.
They have not been given work to do.
They don't want to, they are not.
And it is because they are seen to be in a certain political frame.
For their orientation.
Really?
Or they have been empaneled less. And people know it, but they don't talk. Yeah, I will say it.
Okay, so this is what we are going to do. I think we will not scratch this and leave it. So you agree to join us?
I'll join you.
Thank you.
I'll join
and
you.
like I said,
send me your article.
This mess. Yes, I will send you that article.
Okay.
There's a lot about jurisprudence that I read, and sometimes I ask myself the things we cringe when we hear.
Do we really have to cringe?
Anyway, so like I said, Afenya Marking, we hope that you will make time for us. He presented a whole paper on the subject of the accusations of bias in the judiciary, particularly against the NDC. So we should have a good discussion on this matter. I want to say thank you to all our guests. Thank you for making time to share your views with us. Theodore Albright with the Center for Social Justice, Haruna Mohammed, Deputy General Secretary of the NPP, of course here in the studio, Inusa A.B. Fuseni, lawyer and former member Tamale Central and former Minister of Roads, Dr. Theo Echampong, political risk analyst and economist. This is where we draw the curtains, God willing, next week. We'll deal with the question of the constant accusations of judicial bias. Tomorrow, 2 p.m., God willing, join me on my favorite show, that is The Law. It's a legal clinic where we teach you pure law. Tomorrow, we're asking the question, regulating cybersecurity. The Cybersecurity Authority is cracking the whip for your safety. We want to understand what exactly it is they are doing. You want to join us and also take your cybersecurity matters very seriously. I'm Samson, Lardy, Anyenini. Have a good afternoon.